So today, and sorry for the shift in agenda last minute, but we'll quickly go over the agenda real quick. And then I will give it to Paula to take the lead. So first we're going to talk about Disability Pride Month. And then we're going to go into disability employment statistics, statewide as well as on a national scale. And then we will leave some time open for Q&A and open forum. And Paula, I will go ahead and see if I can share my screen.
Okay. Okay. Love you. Bye. I'll call you back.
Hopefully, keeping our fingers crossed. Hello, people. Hopefully we're going to be able, Trinea is going to be able to share the documents that I sent out just a little bit ago. There we go. So I am not the type of person that reads everything on the screen. However, if there's anyone on the call that is visually needs visual cues, I can go ahead and do that because the document was not written in code where it will be read by a screen reader. So give a shout if you need me to read it or to give you additional information as to who I am, what I look like, and so forth. And I'm using those cues, which I should have done in the past, and I deeply apologize for my oversight. But it's also to give the people, the employers that are on the call, a better idea of what you should be doing if you are conducting a Zoom call, a Teams, whatever platform your company uses, because you never know who is on, or you might not know, I should say, who's on the call that is either blind or low vision. So generally you would start a meeting out, and this is relatable to the anniversary of the ADA, as well as celebrating Disability Pride Month. I would normally start it out saying, I'm an older woman, I have gray hair, I'm currently wearing a light green shirt, and I'm Caucasian. And then I would read the document. For those that have vision, hearing somebody literally read something they can read themselves can be a bit annoying, I guess is what I would say. So assuming that no one on the call is requiring me to do that, I will go forward. July 26th happens to be my sister's 80th birthday. I'm sure that had nothing to do with 34 years ago, President Bush deciding to sign the ADA on that date. But I thought I would throw it in there for a smile. I actually was present when the president signed it in Washington, D.C. That doesn't make me better than anybody else. Just means I was there. And no, he did not call me up to the podium. Shocking, but true. Okay. At the time, I was a practicing and certified sign language interpreter. I also had not entered the joy of being a lower limb amputee. However, my other disabilities were there. And you'll see what category they fall into in just a moment or so. So we do celebrate it. It is a civil rights act, in case you did not know that. It is often ignored. It is often given a pat on the head, and it is often misused when I state that people state, oh, it's ADA compliant. And even people that are not well schooled in it, I would say I'm intermediate to better knowledge, okay, than say an expert. They just think as long as I slap that on, it's a good to go. To give you an example, how many times have you gone into the restroom and you've seen the sign that you can buy in Staples, or your company may have sprung for a little bit one that's a little bit more expensive? It's the little sign with somebody in a wheelchair, and they're supposed to instantly make that bathroom accessible. I'm not quite sure how the sign does that. If somebody on the call can let me know, please send me that information. I would be thrilled to find out. So that light, not only should you be telling your other employees, and if you work for a large corporation, hey, guess what's coming down the pike in just a little bit of time. We don't have much time to do something, but we can do something. And just like National Disability Employment Month, which is coming up in October, you should celebrate the ADA every day, because you should. The civil rights law. So to give you some ideas of what you can be doing now or in the upcoming months, all right? Do you know, or have you checked recently with your ADA coordinator? And if so, and this is not a slam on anybody, because it may very well be anyone on this call, all right? But how well schooled is that person? Is that person keeping up to date on other regulations that are actually stemming from the ADA or playing into other components of it? So, did you check your company's website for full accessibility? Meaning, is it coded so somebody with low vision or a screen reader can actually have their screen reader read your document, read your website? If you're looking for employees, which I hope your company is, okay, are your job postings accessible? If they're not, and I'm blind or low vision, or have other disabilities that preclude where I cannot read clearly your announcements. So if it's not in good color coding coordination, if it's red, green, negative to people with color blindness, if it has too many of these things going on, it's not good for people with cognitive disabilities. So I did send out information previously. I hope you kept it. If not, let us know and we'll resend it. There have been updates to Public Law 504 and also Section 1557, which will affect just about every company on the line as far as I can tell. So back to effective communication. Yes, everybody thinks that means you need an interpreter. Please do support my people that are still in my profession. Thank you. However, if you use any type of instant messaging, whatever platform you feel like putting it on, can somebody that's deaf and hard of hearing, and often meetings are held on those, can somebody that's deaf and hard of hearing know what's going on? Meaning, is it captioned, open or closed? And do you have audio captioning? Audio captioning is when you throw in a little vignette, all right, and there's action, but no one's talking, so people that are blind or low vision have zero idea what's going on. All righty, let's go down to ADA training. Back to, when was the last time your training was updated? Now, I am a previous federal employee. Please don't hold that against me. And we are mandated to take annual training. Actually, a lot of my colleagues that I used to work with are probably trying to knock that out right now because they have until 30 September to do it. Most people wait to 29 September, and then they don't understand why they don't get it all done. However, has it been updated lately? Or is it the same old, where people are mandated to take it and they're just clicking through it because they've taken it 10 times at this point and they know the answers, okay? You should update it. There's always changes in the regulations. There's always new data, and people should be aware of it. There's some great, I put in the ADA hotline, call them if you need information or you're not quite sure, or you think you've got it right. So what can you do, even if it's at the tail end of this month? We're about halfway through, or you could just carry it through to the next month, okay? So host a mobility clinic for information and conceptual ideas. Meaning, now, I am an individual with a mobility disability, but I'm just one of many types of mobility disability. To give you an idea, Parkinson, cerebral palsy, stroke, I'm trying to think of a few others other than amputation, born with limb difference, that's not amputation, but limb difference, and opted not, especially if it's lower limb, they've opted not to have the affected limb amputated because it may just be a shortening of the femur or shortening of their pelvic girdle. And so it can be augmented with shoes. There's a host of other reasons why. Do me a favor, if you decide to do this, whether it's a lower limb or upper limb, mobility does hit upper limbs, yes. All right, they could be born with what we call a below the elbow or an above the elbow. They could be born with webbed fingers. They could be born with no fingers on certain, on one hand or both. There's a host of things. And then all of a sudden opening that doorknob is a whole other game. Okay. So if you decide to do something like this, kindly do not do what I've seen done numerous times. Let's get the person who doesn't have a fill in the blank and will pretend that they do and will demonstrate that. That's like, I am fluent in ASL, all right? When I was on my game, people would often ask me, are you deaf? All right? And I would always say no, because I don't jump into someone else's culture. However, it drives me crazy when I see someone with who does not have or doesn't have the same disability, but they're going to pretend that they do. All right. Back in the day, I'm old enough to remember when we had Indigenous people portrayed in movies, and they would hire anybody but an Indigenous person. Okay. Or we had people from the Far East, and they would hire the most American looking person you could possibly find. But with makeup, they would narrow the eyes. How insulting. Please don't do that. Or any other disability that you care to demonstrate, whether it's deafness or blindness or cognitive or whatever. So scroll down a little bit, please. Trinea, thank you. So you could sponsor an awareness poster contest. You could, I would say, have somebody that is someone with a disability be the judge. A nice certificate would be nice. Another idea is this is summertime. Many people have children at home. This is a great teaching moment. Let them do the poster and then let the employees pick, a couple of winners. All right. Ask for artwork to be exhibited. You'd be surprised how many people are artists. Just because they're not paid for it professionally doesn't mean they're not an artist. And then, of course, there's a did you know category. I sent out a short list previously, but they're fun to pop in or to play trivia with. Did you know, such as, did you know or do you know why you have your cell phone now, as we all use them, vibrates? That stems way back, folks, to when alarm clocks were those little round things with the little bells on them. They go ding, 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 ding. Well, if you're deaf, who cared? So they put it under their pillow. It would vibrate, but bump. Same thing with baby monitors or other home monitors. That stems from someone who's deaf or hard of hearing, could not hear the door being knocked upon. And so they put a flasher, and they were homemade to start with until they became much more popular. So there's a few ideas to do for disability awareness. Scroll down a little bit because I believe I have the information on the pride flag. So back in the day, okay, I apologize for the spelling error. That's my fault. I got this done really quickly and I didn't proofread, and I apologize. All right. So Disability Pride Month is ironically July, go figure, because it's the ADA, right? And the flag was developed in July of 2015. Now, it's stated that Anne McGill went to a less than pride-filled experience at an ADA event. I tried to find information on that. Granted, I only had about half an hour, so forgive me. I couldn't find it. I'm assuming that it might have been, I don't know, couldn't get access to it, or they had people pretending they were somebody with a disability and they were, I don't know. So why the zigzag was removed, if you had, and you're looking at it at a screen, all right? If you have any type of disability that can cause seizure or migraine because of flashing, okay? Epilepsy is the most common with any kind of flashing or flickering lights, okay? But they also can trigger severe debilitating hospitalized migraines. And if you don't think that's a disability, my son-in-law happens to be somebody that can be brought down to his knees from a migraine headache. And I've seen him hospitalized several times. They are that debilitating. And there is some evidence that if they're consistent, they can actually cause some sort of damage to the cellular makeup of the brain. FYI. So she originally had a zigzag. People said, nah, it's not going to work out. And so she then redesigned the flag where the lines are striped still, but they're more muted in tone. That helps people with red, green, or other forms of color blindness, as well as bright colors sometimes on a screen can also trigger cognitive disabilities. And there's a whole host of cognitive. So scroll down a little bit, please, Trinea. Thank you. And you can, you can read basically the information and just go down to where the depiction of what color on the flag depicts what grouping. So there you have it. I, prior to joining the limb loss committee, community, I should say, I had invisible, so I was white, not just because I'm Caucasian, folks, but I had invisible disabilities. I was born with dyslexia and dyscalculia. However, when I was a child, there was no such thing. I mean, there was, they just hadn't diagnosed it yet. So there's some ideas, post them around, right? You can find probably copies or, I shouldn't say copy, but a picture of the flag, as long as it's not copyrighted. I don't see there's any reason why you cannot use it, all right? But it does give people an idea what that might mean and why we're asking for representation. Does everybody on the call know what an ableist is? You can shake your head if I can't see you. Just in case you don't, an ableist is that nice person who, I'm going to use my interpretation. That doesn't mean it's the interpretation for you, but for me, it's the term special needs. To me, the term special needs is a nice little pat on your head, basically saying, "Ah, okay." They're also, another format of ableist is they'll do everything for you. Okay, let me open the door. Well, that might be kind, but did you ever think I might be able to open the door? Or they'll speak for you. So maybe you're out with someone, you're having, I don't know, lunch with your friends, and the the waiter or somebody comes to the table and they'll order, and then you automatically order for that person as if they don't have the ability to say, "I'll have a hamburger, please." Even if they have a speech disability, they probably have figured out how to still order. They write it down, they use a speech synthesizer, they type it into their cell phone, and they click the little button that says, "I'll have a hamburger, please." So don't be an ableist, all right? Let people do for themselves when they wish to, and always ask. Even if you are somebody with a disability, ask the other person if that's what they want done. Don't just assume that they can't do it. Regardless of the person's disability, if it's somebody that falls into the developmental or intellectual disability category, I don't care if technically they're functioning on fill in the blank level. Treat them as an adult if they have become an adult, and give them the right to answer. that's my best suggestions. All right, now on to the numbers game. If you would be so kind, Miss Trinea, and put up the good, the bad, and the ugly numbers. That's the unemployment numbers for June. Remember, we're always behind, okay? So the numbers come out the first Friday of every month by the Department of Labor, yay. And they have to post them by noon. So here is the not very, wrong one. It's the other one, Shania. There you go. All right. This is not pretty, at least not in my eyes. So the unemployment rate for people without disabilities did rise in June. It was only by 0.1%. Still, it's a, you know, it's an economic and unemployment indicator. But look at the indicator for people with disabilities. Now that's nationwide. Your state may be different. Your state may have high unemployment. So the unemployment rate up in Michigan is much higher than that in lower Michigan. So if I don't know if we have somebody on the call from Michigan, we do have employers in Michigan. If you're in this part, in the thumb, so to speak, of Michigan, you're a Youper. And if you're below the bridge, you're a troll. I know that because my husband was stationed in Michigan, not because I'm brilliant. However, it is pretty dismal. The labor participation rate, everybody can see, yay, 41.4%, but not when you do the comparative. Not when you see that overall individuals with disabilities are 37% lower than the national average than being employed. Again, Department of Labor uses the age limit of 16 to 64. And that is a composite of both male and female. All right. And it also is not seasonally adjusted, and nor has it, and it includes farm and non-farm and also all of the industries. So statewide, I have to tell you, I spent a good bit of time trying to find individual state unemployment for individuals with disabilities. Yay to Florida. They are the only state of the ones that I've listed, okay, and that's where our employer council is from, that I could easily say, aha. So Florida, you are at 3.3% overall. However, your individuals with disabilities is 5%. So if we just did a game shot numbers game, okay, if you even took 1/3 of the rate that you're seeing is, again, that is statewide people without disabilities, okay? And you did 1/3 of that and you added it to your average, it's not a pretty picture. At least not in my opinion, all right? Why? Because I think people are still believing that individuals with disabilities simply can't, or they won't, or they don't have the skill set, or fill in the blank. I'm asking everybody on the council. I know you're all doing a great job. Don't get me wrong. This is not a, you didn't do. First of all, you don't control your state, unless you're the governor, and if you are, can I meet you? But you can help everyone, yourselves, and everybody else in the labor market that wants to have a job that falls into that category, to make the powers that be at your organization, whether it's 15 people or 15,000 or more, help them understand that, first of all, no matter who it is, they have to be qualified to do the job. That's up front, okay? That you don't get hired and then we qualify you. All right. We hire you and then we hopefully train you even more so you can go up the career ladder. But you don't walk in the door saying, I want to be, and then they throw training at you. Okay. That's a training center, not an employer. help them understand. Sit them down at the table if they will. Give them an idea. Throw these numbers at them in a polite manner, obviously, all right? Make your CEO, your directors, whomever it is that does a lot of the hiring, throw these numbers at them and tell them, no, you're not holding them specifically responsible, but you'd like them to take a part in reducing the number. Okay, that's my chit chat for today. Hopefully I haven't bored everybody. There's a couple of chats. Thank you very much. Thank you, Solomon. You are right. Audio description can be wild. I agree. It needs to come back, or I shouldn't say it needs to come back, but it does need to be improved. This could be a case, and I very rarely say this, but it could be the case of something, and I'm saying this with great quotes and a lot of question marks on my face. Something might be better than nothing. And if you don't have it, or your technology is really not supportive of it, be kind and jump in. So if you're on a meeting and there's some video zipping by, have the conversation with the person that's running the meeting prior to, hey, so-and-so has low vision, so-and-so is blind, and they would like to know what's going on. Let them know from the beginning that they should state, I'm whatever it may be, okay? And the video, even if they say when there is no audio, meaning there's no dialogue, the video is showing something. Because to them, it's a black screen, okay? They have no idea that it's some great looking guy and gorgeous gal walking off into a beautiful sunset because you're pitching that they should go spend their honeymoon at some sandals vacation, all right? Let's see, with DEI on the rise with employers, is it beneficial for applicants with disabilities to disclose? This is the biggest question always. I think since people have been hired with a disability going way back, I think Moses may have had to ask that question to God. Moses had a speech disability. Okay, so we're going back quite a bit. All right. Should they disclose? Obviously, if I walk into an interview, I don't have an option to or to not disclose. I wear prostheses. All right. Some disabilities, you if it's face to face, you're just not going to hide. Here's the main reason why people are afraid to disclose. Well, I'll give you two. The first one is they're not comfortable themselves with having a disability. I can't do anything about that other than try to give them my perspective, how I am fully embracing my disabilities. I don't even look at it that way, so forth and so on, but I'm not them and I don't walk their life. The other reason really is they've either been rejected enough times, and the primary reason they didn't get the job was not because they weren't qualified, or there was two great candidates and someone's not going to get the job, okay, but because they have a disability. And so they're afraid of being rejected again. Or they have not gone through that process, but in the back of their head, they're thinking, you'll never hire me. If you ask for a reasonable accommodation, even in the private sector world, you're going to have to disclose. They're not going to give you X just because you want it or you think it's a cool tool. All right. And I think Solomon, who's by far the cool tool guy in the tech world, all right, maybe we should give you that new name, Cool Tool Solomon. He likes that one. Good deal. They have to have a reason why they're giving you this accommodation, whatever it may be, whether it's a cool tool or work at home, or if there's a mental health issue and there are some days that getting up and getting to work at 8 o'clock is just not going to happen, but you're willing to contact your manager and say, look, I'm starting at 10, but I won't stop until 7. So I'm making my hours, so forth and so on. And that's been predetermined with your manager. You cannot just call up your manager and say, guess what? Well, you can, but might not be the best idea you've ever had. Okay. You have to work with that. All right. So in reality, especially since this is the tail end really of 2024, I always suggested to a candidate when I was in recruitment and hiring, one, go with your heart, go with your gut. I'm not you. Okay. But somewhere along the line, you are going to have to disclose. You're either going to need it because you do need an accommodation. You work at a different, I won't say pace, but you work in a different genre, so to speak. Don't spring it on your manager. It's really, there's just certain surprises that don't go down well. Sit down and have that conversation. If it's not during the live interview and you are actually offered the position and you accept it, that is a good time to begin your not 24-second elevator speech. Please don't do it in 24 seconds, all right? But sitting down with the either the manager, all right, or for the if the HR specialist. Anya, I disclosed to my direct report once I was hired. And that's fine. Okay, you've been hired. For them to pull it at that point would be discriminatory, to say the least. All right, but do report it. It, I guess, from my perspective, also comes from I'm not ashamed, and if I'm not ashamed of it, then I'm willing to tell people. But again, I can't give. There's no one pat answer. There just isn't. In the federal government, I will tell you, and in some of the states, if you're hired under a special authority, specifically for individuals with disabilities, you have to disclose. And I think that's fair. Because that's the job I was hired into, but also the job I had. If we're hiring you non-competitively because of a special authority, as antiquated as it is, well, then you have to pony up, I guess, is the idea. Other questions, other things you want to ask me, or whatever you want to ask about. Numbers, how can you help change them? Hopefully some of you, I know Solomon is going to the national conference in just a few weeks. Okay. I know Anya is. I only know that because I'm speaking with them. So if you're not planning on showing up, could you send me your Cliff Notes? But others, there's still time. I think July 12th is the cutoff date to get the discounted room rate. So if you haven't made up your mind yet and you still want to come, please do. If you can't make it, there will be, some of it will be videoed and for later release, but we would love to see you there. If you are not an individual with limb loss or limb difference, and you want to learn about prostheses because you work with people that may fit into that category, okay, then I'm not, hang on one second, Solomon. Please come, check out our world, all right? Pick up a lower prostheses and see what it weighs and ask them to put, maybe if you can, so you hold, I wear on my right side a microprocessing knee, all right? Pick that up and see. I will tell you, I'm testing out a new microprocessing knee this week. My previous knee, just the knee, weighed 6 pounds. Now that may not sound a lot until you're dragging it around.
Comment on the room accessibility, the accessible rooms, and I took my son. My son is about to go away to college, and he had a conference that he had to go to in Savannah, Georgia. And I don't know if any of you been to Savannah Riverwalk area. It's really pretty. But if you have limb indifference, if you are in a wheelchair, if you have to use any tools to get around, it is not your friend at all. The hotel we stayed in, the front desk person, and of course, I'm super sensitive now to not just my own, disability or things that I have that I pay attention to, but she said, hey, there was a mix up with hotels for the conference. I had to switch hotels like when I got there and to stay with the group. And she said, oh, this room is inaccessible. It's for hearing or something. And at first, because she named everything, right? And I was like, what? What is this room for? So she kind of fumbled but she looked at me, she says, it won't matter for you. And I was like, explain to me what you're saying for the room. Like, tell me. She's like, well, it won't make a difference for you. You don't have any kind of disability that you would lead. Now, looking at me and I said, well, are you saying that this room is like for people that are hard of hearing or deaf? Like, what are you saying? Or is it for people, is it wheelchair accessible? Like, which one? And she was like, I don't know, to be honest. I'm not sure of the difference between all of them. And I thought, and she was young and she was really nice, trying to be helpful. And I said, they did you a real disservice. And I said, honestly, if the room is big, I do need a room that has a doorbell. I have low hearing. Like, I can't. So if housekeeping is knocking and the room is bigger, guess what? I won't hear them. I was like, so I do try to get the doorbell room. If it has a doorbell, does it have a doorbell? And she's like, oh. And that just shows me that a chain like that, of that size, nobody at the front desk should guess what this room does, like what kind of help. And then there was no sign the elevators were broken. There was one small elevator for everybody to get on. And when I say everybody, it was a beta. I don't know if you know what Beta Club is, but it was full of kids from everywhere. And then the unsuspecting tourist who didn't realize that a kid conference was going on. So there was a young man who had a cane and he was walking towards the elevator and it was hot. And he saw all these kids just like standing there and he's looking and I'm looking, I'm like, the steps, he's like, I'm on the 10th floor. And I was like, oh, I said, well,
Probably not gonna happen.
it's like, but they just did, to be in such a well-visited area, major chain, and to have such poor, I mean, they didn't even try. They didn't even try. And I had some of my Easter seal stuff with me, and I gave her a pamphlet just so she could understand. And then she came back and she says, oh, thanks. And I said, not that and I told her, I said, I'm not mad at you. And you don't know what you don't know, right? And I gave it to her. And then I explained to her, I said, just so you know, I said, I'm going to tell you. And I know looking at me, I don't try to hide it as camouflage. I was like, but I only can see out of one eye. I only have one eyesight vision. Like, so there are things that you may not think I'm disabled, however that you may think that looks for you, but I am. Let me say, and I can, my hearing is not, I was like, I'm dealing with that too, but just so you know, and then I gave it to her and she, she's like, I'm so, I was like, no, I'm not telling, I'm telling you so you can know to be helpful. And I said, now we'll tell your manager, not, I'm not telling on you. I'm telling your manager overall about this, not you. And I was like, I want to make that clear. I know you're doing the best you can. She looked like she was about 19, working a summer job. And I was like, I'm not. I said, I just want you to understand. But she really appreciated it. And she went back and told me she showed me a little list that she went and asked for what the rooms meant. And she says, we don't have very many of them.